Welcome everybody to episode 49 of KNITLIB the podcast. My name is Susan and I'm coming at you from Calgary, Alberta, located in the western side of Canada, where I share a very cluttered at the moment condo with my husband Ryan and our very mischievous cat Jessup. Yes, it's been a little while and I have a change of scenery, as you can see. We, right off at the top, we changed our studio room and our living room around. So now I am back into my old studio room where I had been for quite a few years before we did the switch, and I am really loving being back in this room. I'm by the window, which is awesome. I also am joined by my lovely friend John here. This is a painting, part of a painting done by our friend Gary McMillan, who is a very prolific portrait painter here in town. And he did a really amazing portrait of a very well-known local artist, John Will. And this is a portrait of John doing a self-portrait of himself. And yeah, it's a really great painting. I love this painting. And it also just looks like I have a mischievous old man sitting on my shoulder, which would not be untrue of John when you meet him in person. He is a mischievous old man. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to be in this space with you today, and you can see a little bit of downtown. You can see that I'm in a kind of a high-rise type of thing, which is kind of fun. I don't think I've ever really shown any time during my podcasting, like outside. You can't actually see where I am. And yeah, you can see I'm in an apartment building, condo building, really. Any hoodles, yes, it's been a bit of a spell since the last time I was here, sharing stuff with you. A lot of things have happened. January has been a bit of a shit show. Let's just say that, in true Aquarian form, really. We've had a lot of dramatic swings from up and down. I've been sick for the majority of the month. So whatever weird virus that I have is just not working itself out. I feel fine. It's just I'm still very congested, and congested in my chest too. But other than that, I have high energy and I feel just fine. So apologies if my voice sounds a little grovelly, and if periodically through this video, this episode, there might be slightly strange cuts, and that might be because I've had to blow my nose or I've had to cough. Yes, so apologies for that up front. So I've been sick. School started up again. I've had really intense work schedule, which has been a little overwhelming, and thankfully I think I have my bearings under me now. So going forward for the month of February, I think I feel a little bit more stable on my feet. And yes, so that's pretty much it. I've done a little bit of knitting, a little bit of sewing, and all that jazz. So we're just gonna jump right in and share some finished objects. Let's share some finished objects. Look at my teacup, watch. It says meow on the bottom. This is a mug handmade in Newfoundland that has cute little kitty cats on it. I love it. Yeah, and I'm drinking the tea I'm drinking, which is living in this teapot right here, is Candy Cane Crush from David's Tea, because that's my favorite tea. I mix it with a little bit of peppermint agave, and it's my favorite sweet pepperminty tea. I love it. So yes, let's go into finished objects. Blah, 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 blah. I have two finished objects to share with you today, and the first one being, they're both the same thing. So excuse me, I decided to cast on a beret pattern called the Best Beret by James N. Watts, who's a delightful human being. And if you're not following them on Instagram, you totally should, because it's going to bring so much joy into your life. So he came out with a great beret pattern, and I've seen so many of them pop up on my feed. So many of the people I follow and friends have made it, and I thought, okay, we're gonna give this a go. It calls for worsted weight yarn, and at the time I was going through my stash because we were reorganizing and everything, so I took it upon myself to kind of skein up a lot of yarn that had been sitting in balls in my stash. And I found this yarn. It's, do I have any? No, I don't have any extra of it, I guess. The yarn I found, I have no idea what the brand is. I know I had tried to use it for a sweater, I think, at some point, or maybe mittens. Maybe they were mittens. And it almost looks like it might be Peace Fleece, because it has that sort of, it's like kind of rustic, but very, very soft. The only thing that was missing from it is that it didn't have mohair in it, and Peace Fleece typically has mohair in it, and this stuff didn't. It was just really, really tweedy. And maybe it does have mohair in it, or maybe all of this is just cat hair. I don't know. But I just cast on, and I ended up with this really cute gold. Like, look at the color of this. It's pretty remarkable. This gold beret. I did not do a gauge swatch. That was my first mistake. And the result, if I put it on, the result is this very big, I mean, it's pretty cute. Yeah. It's a very big floppy beret. I kind of feel that if I had more hair, that it would fit me a bit better. I think because it's just so large, and I kind of feel like it might fall off my head too, because it's not as tight along the, it's not as tight along the brim as the next one I'm going to show you. But I'm pleased with it, and I really love the pattern. It's just, I think this is a little too big, and I don't feel confident wearing it. I feel like it's too, maybe if I had a full head of hair instead of just half a head of hair, I'd feel better about it. I think if I had long curly hair to counteract this, which case, I have a friend that has a giant head, who also has very long, curly, beautiful hair. That would look great in this yellow. I'm going to give this to her and see if this works for her. I can't believe I didn't think of that until I just started talking then. Oh, great. Great, I think I might have a home for this. Yay, okay. And she also got other hats for me that I ended up giving her because I cut my hair off, and they looked better when my hair was longer. And then when I chopped my hair all off, they didn't look great. So yeah, what's great about this pattern is that the increases take place every other row, but they're in sporadic places every other row. So you don't get a discernible like decreased design. Sometimes when you're doing decreases, especially for a hat, you tend to decrease in the same spot, like say every 10 stitches, every 10 stitches or so. And so you get this sort almost like a star pattern happening, or a pinwheel or something. James made sure to have all of the decreases and increases placed sporadically around so that you don't get that kind of pattern. And in the pattern also suggests that you use a woolen spun yarn, which is what this is, to kind of counteract how visible the decreases and increases would be. And I think it worked really, really well. So that was, I kind of feel like that in sewing, sometimes you make a muslin. That's my knitted muslin of this hat. And I knew what I wanted to do to change it. I knew I wanted it to be gold still, and I knew I wanted it to be smaller and also a lot more textured. So what I decided to do is I decided to, before I show you the finished thing, I'm going to show you the yarns that I decided to hold together. So I decided to hold together this stuff right here. This is a yarn from Hello Stella Fibers. It's a fingering weight, but has all of these like slubs in there. The folks at the knitting shop at my knitting store, yarn store, they call this fingering weight with skin tags, which is horrifying, but also accurate. So I have this, what was the colorway name? I can't remember the colorway name of this, but I'll put it in the show notes. But this is Hello Stella, and the base I think is called Savvy. I love it. And I held it together with this gold mohair lace from Rico Designs, which is a really affordable mohair. And then I also held it together with this Bas Ramu in color in pip. So this is Colourwork pip, and this is in brass band. So I held all three of these together to create an incredibly scrumptious texture. Let me stick this here. This is the finished object. Look at the texture of this. Oh my gosh. I love it. It's fuzzy and lumpy and bumpy and just wonderful. I'm gonna put it on. Let's see. Yeah. So this is way more, I'm gonna fix my bangs here. Get the bangs in. It's a lot tighter, that's for sure. Yeah, I'm loving, I love this beret. Like this, when I was thinking about making a beret, this is what I was thinking of. Not a bigger one. I wanted this small, let me turn. This small, just perches on the top of your head kind of thing, and in this gold color that will go with everything that I own. And yeah, I'm really, really pleased with it. I did, this pattern uses up very little yarn, especially if you're not doing the multi-strand version like I did. I don't think I changed anything. The only thing I changed with this is that I'm not using one yarn, I'm using 3 yarns held together, which give this probably about a light worsted weight, roughly. And I went down a needle size, so I used a 3mm needle, and which I think the pattern calls for a 3.25 or a 3.5 with worsted or Aran weight yarn. So this is definitely a hell of a lot smaller than the other one is. And I love it. I love it. I love it so much. Strongly recommend this pattern if you're looking for a hat pattern that is not a toque. And I think that this is like the perfect fall spring hat. It's a good bad hair day hat, although I'm having a good hair day today. And I have pink in my hair now, and I don't know if you can see the pink a little bit. I think the pink goes really well with this. I'm just so pleased. I'm just gonna keep, I think I might keep it on. I think I might keep it on. We're gonna keep it on. Yeah. All right, so that's one finished object done. Or 2, I should say. Because here's the, like, look at the size. This is like, gigantic compared to the other one. Do your gauge swatch, friends. Do a gauge swatch. So when I finished these, I thought, okay, I'm going to cast on for some new things, because I actually, when I was making this, I ran out of the Bas Ramu, and I went to the yarn shop, and of course, there was no other balls in this colorway left. And I'm just like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to makeshift something. I was 10 rounds away from finishing it, and so I was like, oh, it's gonna suck if I have to change, like do a different color at the top. It's gonna really look like I have a nipple on my head if I change the color and it's just the circle with this big pointy. Yeah, it would really look like a nipple. So thankfully, my friends and coworkers at Stash, Emma had mentioned that she used the same yarn in a shawl, but she didn't use all of one of the balls, so she ended up giving it to Kira for a pair of socks, and that she didn't use the whole thing for her socks. So Kira managed to give the ball of yarn to me. I don't know if it's the same ball of yarn, it might be, or it might be a different one. But anyway, we have the same yarn in 3 projects. We've shared yarn, so I think that's kind of fun. And what a fun, like, wouldn't that be a cute knit along or something to do, where you just have, like, you know, a Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants type of situation, but it's with one giant thing of yarn, and that you just keep passing this ball of yarn around to see what people make out of it? Wouldn't that be fun? I don't know. That's an idea. I'm just thinking out loud there. So while I was in the shop, and because there were I didn't have any, I went in looking for the extra ball of Bas Ramu, came out with a sweater quantity of yarn and a new skein to knit a pair of socks with, because that's what you do, I guess. I don't know. I kept prefacing this with, I'm like, oh, I need to get this because, you know, I deserve it. I'm very good at convincing myself to buy yarn. And I know I wasn't going to, but screw it. I did. Whatever. No apologies. Brings me to my current work in progress. One of 3 current works in progress. And this is, I'm knitting a pair of socks, ankle socks. The pattern I'm doing is Block Party by Dawn Henderson, and who is Dawn Landix on Instagram. And I really encourage you to go check out her sock patterns if you love knitting socks. She has a lot of really great patterns on there. And I know if you aren't aware of her patterns or anything, or don't follow her on Instagram, she's an amazing human being. And I don't know her personally, but I've been following her for a long time, and she's going through a pretty tough family situation right now. So if you feel like you want to support someone really awesome, and also get some new knitting patterns, new sock knitting patterns, you should definitely check her out and support her. So I picked up a copy of Block Party, which is a textured ankle sock, and I thought, oh, this will be perfect. This is what I want to do. I want to knit a pair of socks. And I picked up a skein. This is all caked up, so it's going to look kind of wacky caked up. Right here, this is Mineville Wool Project, which is one of my favorite yarn dyers. They're like a collaborative duo, I think it's a duo, of fleece artist and somebody else that do limited run hand-dyed yarns out of Nova Scotia, and their bases, it's limited run, so you gotta buy it while you see it, because it's not gonna come back again. But it's all priced really affordably. So this yarn right here is their Merino nylon base. So it's non-superwash, which is fun. And the colors, if you can kind of see, I love this because the colors I found really awkward together. There's a sort of a really, really deep teal, and then that fuchsia hot pink, and then a brown. I thought that was kind of fun. So I picked it up because it was an awkward color combo. And then I cast on for the block party socks. So, I mean, this is not very much. Let me get this needle out of the way. I don't have much done. I just have the heel flap done here, and I'm just working on the gusset decreases. You can see a bit of the texture happening here. The texture going down the top of the foot, it's pearl and twisted rib, sort of. I'm really liking it. As if you haven't checked out my my own sock pattern that I have released, it's called Norther, and that has a similar texture pattern where it's all reverse stockinette and then has knit stitches interspersed on it. So this is very much in the same kind of family. I'm really loving how this is knitting up. One thing though that is, I'm realizing as I was knitting this, because I'm knitting them on 2.25 Chiaogu red lace needles. I picked up a pair of like the fixed circulars just because I've been finding that when I use my interchangeables, I'm unscrewing them. I must be gripping, it must be the way that I'm holding onto the needles. So I just decided to pick up some fixed circulars just for the hell of it. And I think my gauge is too loose. And I'm sure this will be fine. I'm just gonna keep knitting the pair on these needles. And then when I wash them, because it's non-superwash, it will tighten up a little bit. But I think I'll knit them again or do another pair of shorty socks using a much smaller needle. So I picked up a 1.75 millimeter needle, which is, let me see, that's a US 00 to help counteract with my loose gauge. So hopefully I can knit up a tight ass pair of socks is what I want. So I'm gonna give that a go. These are so speedy, as I forgot how quick ankle socks are, because all you really do is you do the ribbing like for 10 rounds essentially, and then you dive immediately into the heel flap. So they go pretty fast. I'm gonna be working on those. This is kind of my travel knitting right now. So this is the stuff I have in my little backpack that I work on at work on my lunch break. And yeah, I'm still really in love with this hat. I'm into it. So that's one work in progress. Another work in progress I had mentioned in the last episode that I have maker plans to do the Telegram cardigan by Becky Sorensen, who's Soprano Knits on Instagram. And I had picked yarn out, which is behind my head. Boink. That's the yarn I was going to use, which is a sport weight Briggs & Little natural sheep wool. I still might do it, but I realized when I purchased that yarn, I actually didn't purchase the stuff that had the nylon in it when I meant to. And so I'm a little hesitant. It's single ply, and it's just, you know, superwash wool. I'm afraid of it wearing and then having to repair everything. I'd rather have something that's a lot more hard wearing than that. So, and I was also thinking, do I really want to knit a gray sweater? Probably not. Like, I'm a pretty colorful person, and the idea of knitting something completely gray just kind of hurts my heart a little bit. So I think I might actually take that yarn, and when in the spring, when it gets a little bit warmer outside, I think I'm going to do some solar dyeing with it and solar dye that yarn a different color. So that's on my list. So while I was at the yarn shop and I picked up that skein of Mineville wool project for the socks, they also had Mineville wool project for, they had a new base in. It's their Superwash BFL. It's a 3-ply BFL. Fingering weight. Let me get it down. And I bought a sweater's quantity in it. And it's this gorgeous, gorgeous, let me get the color here. It's a gorgeous, intense royal purple. It's, I think it's coming off pretty true right now. I mean, I'm blowing myself out, but it's a pretty intense, great purple. Boink. And I love this yarn because it's a tonal. It's pretty solid in color. And I thought, you know, paired with some really bright contrasting buttons, I'm thinking like bright orange buttons or bright pink buttons or something bright and wonderful, maybe yellow, like my nails, that would give me the flexibility of being a Susan neutral. So neutrals for a lot of other folk, I think, are like grays and, you know, really lovely, you know, natural colors, or like a black or something like that. A neutral for me just has to be kind of a solid color. So a neutral would be that bright orange. I have a neon orange, fluorescent orange cardigan, vintage cardigan I picked up from my friend's vintage shop. And that goes with almost everything I have, because when you have something that's a solid color like that, it acts as a statement piece. So no matter what you're wearing, you put that over top of it and it's like, bam, the outfit is the sweater. So I kind of thought that I could do the same thing with this purple. So I cast on, and let me show you the very humble beginnings of this. You can see the color here is beautiful. Here we go. It's just so crazy. And this is the beginning of it. It's not really anything to look at quite yet. You can kind of see, I don't know if you can kind of see the stitch pattern a little bit. I'm trying to get it to focus. Yeah, it's this is very much the very, very beginnings of it. It is a fingering weight cardigan, and I'm knitting the size to fit basically the bust I'm doing, I think, is 41.5 bust, I think. So this is 41.5 inches, I think, is the bust I'm going to, or it might be a 42, I can't remember. It's gonna take a while, and I'm just gonna keep on plugging at it. I know having a fingering weight cardigan is going to get worn a lot, especially in the spring and in the summer, when I am freezing at work, when they have the air conditioning pumped up. So I'm really looking forward to wearing it, and I think it's going to go with everything. The pattern itself is an all-over texture of broken rib, and which is incredibly satisfying because you only have to do a knit purl every other row, and then the other rows are just all knit stitches. The increasing, I haven't done a left leaning and a lifted left increase and a right lifted oh my gosh, that's a tongue twister. I haven't done those kinds of increases in a really long time. So at the beginning of this, they're like a little holy and a little awkward because I couldn't quite remember how to do them. I was doing them incorrectly. But then I figured it out and it's all fine. That type of increase is really fun because it's just kind of like things just grow out of nowhere, and it doesn't really disrupt the broken rib too much. It just makes it look like it's naturally appearing, which is really, really fun. So I'm having a really fun time knitting on that. I did go down a needle size just because I know I'm such a loose knitter. I didn't do a gauge swatch, which may kick me in the butt, but I think I'm okay. I'm knitting the base of the sweater on a 3mm needle, as opposed to a 3.5, I think is what the pattern calls for. So yeah, yay! Sweater is on its way. I'm glad to have something like that on the needles and progressing, which is making me happy. I have one more project to share with you, works in progress. But first, we're going to get some tea. If I've never talked about my really great tea cozy, it was given to me by my mom for Christmas. It's a hooked rug turned into a really, really plush, squishy, super, super warm tea cozy, and I love it. It comes from Newfoundland. I just really love the level of detail. The hooked, they didn't use yarn for the hooking, they did fabric strips, so that's why everything is super, super even. This rug hooker, whoever they were, is off the charts. They know what they're doing. This is pretty good. This is really great. And it definitely keeps my teapots warm forever. Yes, last work in progress is it's something admittedly I haven't been working on lately, but I'm going to get into it. This is the second iteration of a new design I'm working on called Soft Offering, and they are a pair of Mohair trigger mitts, or finger, like I call them trigger mitts. They could be like pointer mitts, maybe, I don't know. Ninja Turtle mittens, because the idea is that you have your index finger free. So this is the current one I'm working on. I finished my first pair, and they were a good test run, and I have adapted this pattern going forward to kind of fix up some of the, not mistakes, but some of the issues that I had with the other one. So I really love this. It has bright orange mohair. The orange mohair is from Rico Designs, and I can show you, it's this color here. And then it's held together with a mystery skein. I have no idea where this is from at all. I don't. It's a mystery skein right here, a really deep teal. There we go. I can't remember if I shared this on the last podcast or not. I might have. But I'm really into this. The things I changed compared to the other pair that I made is that I'm experimenting with a tubular cast on, which I love. I love a tubular cast on. How come I've never done a tubular cast on until now? Like, the cast on edge is gorgeous and has so much flexibility. It's great. So yeah, I did a 1x1 rib. For the thumb increases, I decided to put the increases on marking them with purl stitches, just because that's what I used to do for a lot of my mittens I made for myself. I used purl stitches instead of markers to kind of remind myself where I had to put my increases, and I think it turned out really, really nicely. They're very subtle, you can't really see it. And yeah, so there are other little things. I finished off the top a little bit differently. The top has sort of a wedge decrease, and then I still haven't decided on the top. The top is kind of finished almost like the toe of a sock. I didn't want it to be pointy, but I don't know if I like that either. I don't know, lots of trial and error. I'm slowly working on it. I'm going to save the thumb and the forefinger until I get the other one done, and then I'm going to do them all together. But I love how this one fits so far. It's pretty good. So this is a pattern I am working on. I'll update you as it goes. But mohair, I really want to start a trend. Because I know mohair is such a trend right now, and I think we need to be experimenting with high contrast colors for mohair and the yarns that we're holding them together with. Like, not this hat is not a good example of that, but maybe if I make another hat, I'll hold it together with something really nutty. Like, what if I did this and then held it together with that like great hedgehog fibers? Ooh, that'd be fun. I don't know. Just a thought. But I love the idea of holding different colored, like very high contrast yarns together. You get this marl that's amazing, and I know this one, it almost looks like it's smoldering. It's really great. I really love it. Yeah. So that's all the knitting. That's all the knitting I've been doing, pretty much. This tea is so good. That brings us to sewing. I have a sewing finished object that I like to share with you, and some sewing plans, and then I'm also going to talk about a book I just finished reading. So last week, the week of basically January 20th, was my birthday week. And on my birthday, I decided to take the day off from work, and I sewed something. And it was great because that whole week was coming after a really, really long work week where I worked something like 8 days in a row, and then my body just went like thunk. It just couldn't handle it anymore. I am too old to work so many days in a row. I just can't do it. I'm not very good at balancing things. So yeah, so that week I barely worked at all. I was like homesick, and then I took my birthday off, and then my normal days off kind of coincided with it. So that was a good week. But the dress I decided to sew is what I'm wearing right now. It is the Wixton Shift. And the shift dress or shift top or shift tunic, it's from a company called Wixton, and I've made quite a few versions of this dress. I've made the shirt, I've made 3 different versions of the kind of short mini dress tunic. This is the first time I've done the long version. This version, it comes down to just past my knees. It has a slit up the side, and I also included, it has a tie, and it has 3/4 length sleeves, and then a little bit of ruching on the back. You can see, we have a slit here. Yeah, I will try to take some photos and insert some video of me actually wearing this. Yeah, I made this dress. I had plans to do a different thing, which I'm going to talk about in a second, but I hadn't sewn for like a month and a bit, like a month and a half, almost 2 months. And I was really anxious about starting in on something I hadn't sewn before, a pattern I wasn't familiar with. Because I didn't want to get frustrated. As my day off sewing project, my birthday sew, I really wanted to have something that would set me up for success and that I knew I would be confident in sewing. So that's what I did. And the fabric I used for this, it's a cotton linen canvas, so a very heavy cotton. It's 70% cotton, 30% linen. It is from Ruby Star Designs, and it's this really lovely kind of block print-esque print. I had intended, when I got this fabric initially, I was going to make the Ponta, I think it's Ponta or Ponta blazer jacket from Helen's Closet, but yeah, I just decided to make a dress out of it instead. And I am so pleased with how this turned out. I love the length of this. I love the sleeves. I love the tie. I just love everything about this. I really, and I love it in this fabric, this heavier cotton. I feel really does this pattern justice. The drape is like, it's not super flowy. It has a bit of structure to it, so it's incredibly comfortable to wear. I wore this to an important work thing as my, I had a job interview and I really was anxious about it and I wanted to feel confident. So what makes you feel more confident than a handmade wardrobe, a handmade outfit that you feel dynamite in? And that's what I did. I wore this dress and I had bright purple tights on, and with my neon nails, I have a pair of neon yellow shoes that I wear at work frequently, and I just felt like really pulled together and I felt really confident. And even though I did not get the job that I was interviewing for, I still felt really confident, and yeah, no regrets. And this dress was a big part of that confidence feeling. I think I'm going to get in the future, maybe next payday, more fabric, Ruby Star fabric like this, because RickRack, the sister shop to Stash where I work, they have lots of fabric like that in there, and they carry this stuff, and I would really love to make another version of this, and slowly start, like what I'm doing with all of my sewing is I'm slowly replacing all of the other garments that I made that were like when my sewing level, my sewing competence and confidence was not that high. So I have things that are kind of ill-fitting that I need to get rid of, and I can replace them with really amazing things like this dress. So yeah, if you're looking for a very easy first dress to make, I would really recommend the Wixton. It is very boxy, but when you make a little tie for it to cinch you in a little bit at the waist, you end up with these kind of like great batwing kind of sleeves. The tie is awesome, and you can kind of pair it with a belt or whatever. I really love it, and the size range is really great on those patterns, and there's a lot of positive ease built into it, so you can decide, which size you want to make. I made the size 10, so this is the size 10 on me, and I have a bust. My bust measurement is, I think, what is it? It's a 37 and a half, 38 inch bust. So if that helps, trying to decide how to make this. So anyway, I'm very pleased with this. One of the things, my sewing plans, I had not intended to sew this. I had intended to sew a pencil skirt and a Wixton shift top as sort of matching coordinating separates. That's what I want. Coordinating separates is what I was looking for. Not coordinates. Matching separates. So I wanted to do a pencil skirt, and in a heavy kind of wool, and I picked up the fabric, and this has all been washed and everything. Yeah, I always smell it because I'm just like, has it been washed? Yeah, it smells like my laundry detergent, so there you go. I picked up this sort of boucle wool. It's a heavy wool, has a slight stretch to it, very, very slight stretch. And it's this really rich raspberry color. And I thought it would be so great as a pencil skirt, sort of hip below the knee with a slit up the back, and then have a matching boxy top to go with it, so that you have this kind of silhouette that's like almost a straight line is what I want. And I thought, oh my gosh, this will be really cute if I get this done. Then again, wear it with really bright tights and really great shoes. And it would be, I keep thinking about making a quote unquote professional wardrobe, a professional librarian wardrobe that is still very much me. Just because when I say professional, it does not mean I'm going to be wearing black blazers and like dressing really neutrally. I want to basically dress like a crayon is what I'm thinking a professional wardrobe in my world would be. So having silhouettes that are pretty slick and that make me feel really confident, and that are bold colors and bold textures, so that I still look like, you know, it's not, maybe it's out there for, I have to stop doing air quotes, what the hell. Maybe it's out there for some people, but that's fine. This is, you know, these are my neutrals, and these are the ways that I feel confident and comfortable and feel professional. And I think that that's the big thing. If you're supposed to dress professionally, or like, you know, business attire or whatever, that doesn't mean you have to dress like, you know, a boring old fuddy-dud. Like, you can have so much fun with color and texture and different shapes. It's just a matter of the confidence you have pulling it off, I think. And yeah, and not giving two shits if anybody tells you different. Yeah. So that's going to be my next step. Maybe I might, I do have a lot of schoolwork and stuff I have to do tonight that I really have to buckle down and do some reading about floods. Library floods. Yay. So I have to do a bunch of reading for that. But maybe I will do a mock-up of the pencil skirt. Oh, I forgot to mention, oh my God, I forgot to mention the actual pattern I'm going to be using for the pencil skirt. It's from Seamwork, and it's called Christina. And just because I have a subscription to Seamwork right now, so I get free credit every month, and so that's the pattern I chose. It's considered a kind of beginner pattern, so I'm not as confident putting in invisible zippers, really. And I'm unsure about the fit of this, if it will fit over my glorious little tum-tum that I have, that I tend to carry all of my weight in the bottom half of me. So I have to be, I think I might be in between sizes for the skirt. So I really need to make a muslin before I cut in to my lovely raspberry wool fabric there. So I'm probably going to do a muslin of it first and see how that goes. Hopefully that'll work out. If it doesn't, it all gets chopped up and thrown into another poof that I'm going to make, one of those footstools, because I already have a pile of stuff that's going to go into a new one. So yeah. So the next thing that I want to chat at you about is the book that I just finished reading, because I'm going to try every podcast episode to have a little book talk. Yeah. So the book that I just finished reading, or listening to, rather, is called Followers, and it's by Megan Angelo. And this is a new book. I can't remember if it was published 2019 or 2020. I think it's 2019. I listened to it on the app Scribd, so SCRIBD, not a sponsor, just a fan. That's where I listen to the audiobook. I really love this audiobook. First off, the reader did a top-notch job of making every character really believable, and in terms of like the different nuances she would do to her voice, to kind of designate different characters. I really loved it. And there was none of that kind of like, if you listen to audiobooks a lot, you may know when it's how annoying it is when people try to sound like a man or try to sound like a woman. It's stupid. So thankfully, this narrator, she doesn't let her voice go like low or high necessarily. It's more about intuition of accents and just the cadence of voices and stuff. It was done very, very well. So that has a major thing going for it. The premise of the book, it takes place kind of between two time periods, so around 2015 and 2051. And it follows two characters. We have Orla, who is a 20-something, like close to 30, woman who is living in New York City. She's an aspiring writer. She wants to write a book, but to pay the bills, she's basically writing clickbait for a website that's the equivalent to BuzzFeed, I'd say. And so she's doing all this clickbait stuff, basically soul-sucking job. And she realizes that her roommate is actually a sort of very minor reality TV star. So I guess in New York, where like she's sharing this apartment with this woman that she doesn't really, they never cross paths. They're just like two ships passing in a night. And when they eventually end up meeting under a strange circumstance and getting to know each other, they kind of band together and decide that they're going to be famous. And so there's that. And then the 2051 side, the flip side, is you have the same characters that are in the 2015 timeline, but you have this new character. Her name is Marlo. And she is a woman in her mid-30s. She lives in this government-created town called Constellation, and it's in California. And the town was created as sort of like a Truman Show kind of scenario. So there's cameras everywhere. Everybody's lives are being recorded. They're all aware that their lives are being recorded. And they have these sort of minor celebrities that are living in there that have been government appointed, because in 2051, this is like 30 years after the internet basically exploded and disappeared. So the government had been trying to show the American people that the internet is still safe to use and that they should be sharing their information again. And, hey, come watch, our reality show, get involved in the feeds and all this stuff. See how much fun they're having and how safe it is to share your information and all this stuff. So that's what these government appointed celebrities in this weird reality show are doing. So Marlo, I keep getting the names mixed up. Marlo is one of the characters in this show. And so there's a lot of drama that happens around her. She's coming to terms with some big life decisions and all this stuff, but then discovers some things about her childhood that she didn't know. And then also both of them, Marla and Orla, Look at my names. Oh my God, Marlo and Orla start questioning social media and the state of advertising and what it means to share your life online. I found this book really entertaining and engrossing. It was like listening to an episode of Black Mirror, but not the gross Black Mirrors. I was having this conversation with a work friend and telling her about it. She's like, "Oh, is it like the gross, the really scary Black Mirror episodes?" And I'm like, it's not the really gross ones that I can't watch because it hurts my heart. It's more like the Black Mirror one, that one episode where people can see like their ratings of other people, like when they're looking at them and you see the ratings of, say, like your Uber driver or whatever, and then your ratings go up and down. It's kind of like that episode, but very different. And the Megan Angelo, the author of the book, she does not give anything away easily. It's the pacing of the novel is so great, and I kept wondering, well, what happened to the internet? What happened to this and what happened to that? And you all find out eventually, but she just like little breadcrumbs here and there that just make you want to keep reading. I really, really love this book, and it was a good book to read over the month of January, my birthday month, New Year. It's a month of reflection, and it's really gotten me thinking about perceptions of self. I was kind of talking about this on my Instagram feed recently, and like how the older you get, you know, the older I get, I should say, the more I find myself reflecting on the person that I am now, and how, if I'm actually in touch with the person I am now, or if I'm still viewing myself through the lens I had when I was like 20. And I'm not 20, I'm 38. So, you know, I'm much different than I was at 20. So yeah, and that book kind of made me think a lot about that. If you're looking for a sort of very quick read, for an audiobook, I think the audiobook is 13 hours long, I think. So it's medium length. I would assume that to read the paperback of this book, I think you would probably go through it almost in one sitting. It's quite good. But it would be for those that like, it's a little science fiction-y, it's more speculative fiction. It's not dystopian, at all. But it definitely has, if you like reading chick lit, if you like reading books that center around women in their mid-20s to mid-30s as they're trying to figure out their shit, but you also enjoy a bit of science fiction, I think that this might be the book for you. Yeah, I really loved listening to it. I loved reading it. So that's my book recommendation, Followers by Megan Angelo. So that brings us to the end of this episode. What do I have coming up? I'm trying to think of things I have coming up. I have month of February. This is February 1st. I have a lot of teaching I'm doing at the knitting store. So lots of needle felting in my future. I have some yarn dyeing in my future. I'm going to keep plugging away at the knitting projects that I have. And I'm just trying to decide on what book to read next. I'm still reading Queenie by Candace Carty-Williams, right there. And I'm realizing, and in the last episode I was talking about Queenie, and then one of the lovely viewers, oh, sorry, didn't mean to knock that. One of the lovely viewers left a comment. You left a comment about how misleading it is to call Queenie like an edgy Bridget Jones. And now that I've gotten like a little further in, yeah, totally agree. Calling it a edgy Bridget Jones is not doing this book justice at all. This book is definitely a really hard look at one young woman's life and the role of race relations in the UK, and then also the trauma that comes with, you know, different childhood abuse and all that stuff, and then how you deal with that when you're an adult trying to figure out your shit. Yeah, so I'm really loving this book. I need to sit and maybe I'll just read this, but I'm trying to figure out a new audiobook to listen to for when I'm walking. But yeah, I'm gonna be reading that, doing school crap, and doing some sewing. I don't really have anything else exciting coming up in the month of February. Aside from that, more of the same. I'm really hoping I don't get even more sick again, because I've been sick like this since the beginning of December and it's tiring. So hopefully that will flush itself out. A little bit later this afternoon, or as soon as I'm finished recording this, I am going to go make some bread. I've had bread dough rising since last night, and that's ready to go in the oven. So I'm gonna go do that now. Yeah. Thank you for coming and hanging out with me for this most recent episode. If you would like to follow me on social media, you can follow me here at these places. And show notes are below. Check out our Slack channel for chatting. I admittedly have abandoned it for the whole month of January just because I've been overwhelmed with things, but I promise I'll get back into doing that. Another thing, if you are interested in knitting my sock pattern Norther, that's still available on Ravelry, and you do get a coupon code for watching the podcast. So that will be linked and pictured right here. So it's just for the podcast viewers. And yeah, thanks in advance if you want to go purchase that pattern. And yeah, I hope everything is good where you are. I hope that you are reading lots and knitting lots and crafting lots and doing things that you love. I'll check in with you again in a couple of weeks. Keep being magic, everybody. Bye.